Here we are. Thank you.
All right, we'll call the meeting to order at 7:08 p.m. Start with roll call.
Ben Berry?
Adam Novickus.
Dave Peterson.
All right. Agenda item number 2 is citizens' comments. So any citizens' comments that are not related to 215 Yale Avenue or the tree discussion, is there any? Okay, moving on. Approval of the meeting notes from June 24th, 2026.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Item number 4, CDDP 24-03006, 215 Yale Avenue. Is the applicant here? Oh, great.
Yeah,
No, I'm the designer.
Oh.
I'm gonna do the house.
Okay. Do you want to take time to take us through the design, or?
But do you have the plan in your computer?
Joanna, do you have the plans on the computer or no?
Oh, you would.
You have the
Yep.
other copy?
We have the applications printed here, so you can use that if you like. And-
Yeah, meaning the elevation, I think
Mhm.
concern.
Mhm.
Okay, so,
You can even talk through a lot of it. If you want to
Yeah.
Explain kind of what you're trying to do.
hi Eric, my name is Eric. I'm a designer, so I did a house in the 215 Kensington, Yale Avenue. Do you have a plan in your plan?
No, they won't have it.
Okay, so,
Or would you like
They've
to
all seen
share?
it.
Would huh?
can we share the screen?
You could share the screen. Yeah. Wait, do you want to? If you join the Zoom, you can share the presentation.
Oh, can I join?
Do you have your computer?
No. But do you have a keyboard in your computer?
I just.
I can hear you right now, actually. I have a-
Oh yeah, you can.
Because I was talking with Grant.
Mhm.
I don't think we should hold this up, honestly. Like, I think most of the world have actually used the plans online, right? For this,
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, so here is, I think that we received comments from neighbors concerned about the height.
Mhm.
So I was working with Grant from planning permit, so we actually lower the height. So now the building height is the same height as the current roof. But the current roof is a little bit peaked. So but now the new roof is flat, it's the only difference.
Is that the only change that you made to the plans that have been submitted?
Yes. So we follow the exact existing peak height, we didn't raise it up.
Okay.
The only difference is from the peak from to the flat.
So are you currently flat, or are you
Currently it's a little bit slow, it's
Slightly.
2 points per hour, but it's slow.
Have you engaged the neighbors at all in feedback on the design?
I think we, from Grant, from the planning department, we have 2 neighbors have concerns. And Grant went to their house actually, because he said he went there, and he talked to a neighbor, and as long as we bring it down to an existing peak, that'll be fine. So that's what we did.
Okay.
Then Grant said, okay, then we're gonna bring our project to this meeting for the hearing.
Gotcha. We received comments from, I believe, 7 or 8
So you want
neighbors.
something?
Mhm.
Yeah. These
they're
are, I think this has been, this has been before the 3rd time, right, that we've
Yeah.
brought up?
Yeah.
So like, multiple times people have submitted comments based on the design that was filed with the county.
Okay, but Grant didn't tell me, I didn't know that.
Okay.
Okay.
We can discuss it.
I think I got an email from someone saying they can't really hear us. Joanna? I don't know.
Can you go, so Joanna, can you go to the left-hand corner of the Zoom screen? And you'll see a little carrot next to the microphone.
Little.
All
Oh.
on the lower left-hand bottom, you'll see a little microphone, and you'll see a little carrot to the right.
Yeah.
Click on that, and then if you look at the microphone,
Is it audio settings or microphone?
should say, one second. Here,
Which one?
use
is-
the Logitech Brio.
Okay.
Let's try that.
Okay, and I see there was a hand raised from an attendee, but we're not currently taking questions, but I do want to make
Well, I
sure.
think she's just, that was Gail is the one who
Okay.
said she can't hear anything, so you may want to check if they can hear.
Okay, Gail, are you able to hear us better now?
Yeah, I just can't hear. I can hear you, Joanna, but I can't hear anybody else.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, now I hear you.
Okay.
So you can hear everyone now.
Okay.
Hold it
thank
back.
you.
You can
Okay,
speak up when you're-
thank you all for that.
Can you hear me?
Silence means no.
Gail,
So if the microphone's in your computer, if you turn your computer.
It's now using the Logitech.
oh, is it okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, new location, so
Yes.
it's been of a shift for us, but thank you all for your patience. And thank you, Gail, for helping us.
So, I'm sorry, remind me of your name? Sorry.
Anyway,
Eric, thank you. So, across these 3 times that this has come up before, came up before, we had a representative for the property,
right,
people have submitted comments multiple times.
okay.
So it sounds like those haven't reached you yet, right?
No, because my direct connect is the Grant. He
Yeah.
said, I just followed his instruction. He said, oh, is it ready to be higher, lower? Okay, I'm making it lower.
Got
I
it.
sent back to Grant. Grant, okay, looks good. Let's bring to a hearing.
Mhm.
That's why, okay.
Got it. I don't think we have the updated plans for that. So
I think so. I think that's the
That's
update.
This is the
These are-
update,
this
this
is
is
the
the
update.
Okay, this is
update.
the updated, okay.
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
Got it, okay. And then,
So the only change was the roof
Yeah, because we,
changing.
initially I did also the peak roof, which is higher than the existing.
Yep.
The neighbor behind the property seeing the block of views.
mhm.
That's why we created the flag, same height as the existing peak. So we didn't resolve the height.
Got it.
How close is it to the original peak?
Same.
Same as the original.
Same. So we
house?
have the survey. We mark the height.
Okay.
So now it's same as the existing house. Peak.
So you realize that when you go off the peak, you're still coming off view, right? Because
Yeah, because
Yeah.
that's why we also did a story pool. We did a pool also on the house.
you
We did a pool.
pool.
Yeah, like a
Story pool?
Story pool
Oh, okay, got
on the roof.
it. Okay.
And we talked to Brian. We take pictures of Brian, and
Okay.
he approved it. He said it's
Okay.
good.
Okay, good. So normally when folks are building, like in broader area, not just in Kensington, they usually take some time to meet with their neighbors and talk with them and get feedback on the design to better understand what the impacts might be, to better adjust the design and to make this type of conversation easier. So as you can see, there's a lot of neighbors here today, and you're gonna get a lot of feedback today that's not positive. Like they want adjustments to the design, right? So like my question is basically, I don't think that doing that conversation here today is necessarily the most productive thing. I think that you need to set a time with your neighbors to actually go through the design in detail and get feedback from them to make adjustments that will allow them to feel more comfortable with what you're building.
And just so you understand, some of the things we look at, we have an ordinance, and the ordinance covers things, and we have it online, but it's also, do you impact your neighbor's views, which is one thing that you heard about. Is it too bulky, creating big walls right next to people's windows? Is it,
Getting privacy.
is it creating privacy concerns? So sometimes like decks can be looking into other people's houses. So then other cases it could be access to sunlight. So all these things are part of the ordinance, and when we're reviewing these designs, we have to take all that feedback from neighbors into account before we recommend approval or denial of a project. So really the goal is we want to encourage people to build and improve houses, and I know all these people want to see that house like fixed and renovated and remodeled.
I know it's being abandoned.
Bad shape right now. So, but I think it's when it starts impacting some of these things, we're here to arbitrate whether that impact is reasonable or not. So, given the fact that you guys probably haven't talked to all the different neighbors, it might make more sense for you and the property owner or who's running the project to really sit down and try to talk to them first, because I think you guys can probably get to a compromise that would enable us to recommend approval of the project. But with all the complaints we have right now and the fact there hasn't been discussion yet, it makes it more difficult for us to do that.
Okay. Do you think we can have the letter or email from the neighbors so we know what?
I think Joanna can probably coordinate
Yeah,
that.
I printed them as well today if you would like to take them with you.
Okay.
not that we wanna like, I know you guys are all here to raise your
Yeah.
concerns, but I feel like since he's only one member of the party, if he's gonna take all that feedback, it may not be as constructive as if you guys met with more of the decision makers.
Yeah, I would say we probably have feedback to some of the questions that were mentioned about the county. So maybe if we could quickly go through.
Sure,
We don't
absolutely.
rush it, but it might be helpful.
He said it's not official public hearing.
Yeah, he's the
Oh,
designer.
yeah, we definitely want, it's not that we don't want him to hear it, it's not that we don't want anything said today either, it's just more just setting expectations of what's probably possible today.
Understandable,
Yeah.
so I mean, it's either, well, I guess what we ask is either the applicant would ask for a continuance or we would proceed with the decision review,
Yeah.
right?
So,
So,
Eric,
yes.
you have a choice right now, like, you can ask us, based on what you submitted, to make a recommendation, whether to approve or deny the plan, or you can ask for a continuance that gives you another month to go and engage with the neighbors and to read the feedback and to better understand how to make modifications to your plan that would be more in line with what would be comfortable with for them.
Because I think if I ask, probably today gonna get denied because we have a lot of comments from
Yeah.
neighbors.
I think it's probably yes.
Yeah, okay. All right.
The one thing before we have the neighbors kind of ask a few questions of you, just so we can use this time effectively. Can I get a better sense, is this intended to be a single family residence?
Single family.
Okay.
Single family.
Okay, gotcha.
The only part of the big thing we did a rear extension,
Mhm.
that's a major thing.
Yeah.
For the existing structure, what we did is we got a little bit, make it flat.
Mhm.
So I can talk, so actually, I can contact neighbor directly, regarding all those questions.
Is that okay with you all to
You
contact
already
you?
talked about that several times in
Yeah.
writing to
Okay,
the county.
because, before, Grant said, he said he better him to talk to the neighbor, not me. Because
Oh, okay.
That's why he went to the neighbor's house, he called me.
Yeah.
Regarding.
Is he the owner or is he?
Grant is the.
I'm the-
Grant is
Oh,
DCD
Grant.
staff member.
I represent him.
So,
Yeah, I think that would be another question we'd ask to also meet with the owner, because really it's their decision.
yeah.
Right? I mean, I think, I've been communicating with Grant the entire time,
Mhm.
and I think Grant's been communicating with designer architect, I don't know.
Mhm.
But that's where most of it's been, but really what we've asked continually, through email to the owner, so I've done outreach directly to the owners of the property listed on the application.
Mhm.
They have, and you were copied on many of them, they have yet to respond to any of our outreach.
Because
I did
They
ask.
don't-
they don't really use
they don't-
That's why I'm
I did ask through Grant as well.
Did you say no
They don't
emails?
really use email.
And by the
So
designer.
the whole time I'm gonna talk to the brand and city people.
Okay.
Okay.
So, anything else you want to say before we let the neighbors kind of ask some questions and provide some thoughts?
No, probably need to read through everything is very detailed.
There's a lot, yeah.
There's a lot. It's coming July 27th. Which is.
Well, that's the latest round.
This is
There's
it.
been other rounds.
Okay. But I did see the contact information, like, for example, this one. You go
And I can
Do you
be a
think you can
connector with the neighbors and you if you would like.
Okay, so
I have their,
I can send an email after. If you can.
if the
Alright.
neighbors, I can reach out to the neighbors who have emailed me and ask if you would like to
Yeah.
coordinate for me to, have you all meet or be a connector in the emails. I can do that
Okay, okay.
if
So I
the
can
neighbors
email
are
you.
open to that.
Okay.
Yes.
Is there owners who can meet with them of the property? I think that's kind of where we're getting at is if it's just you and you're gonna get feedback from probably 12 different people, I see a lot of feedback, so it's gonna be different depending on where those people live relative to that house. It might be worthwhile to have people who are gonna make the decision, because I know you're the designer, there's probably an owner who's gonna,
Okay.
because they're probably gonna ask for some design changes.
Yeah.
That may or may
Lengthen the process if they're not involved in the conversations.
Yeah, because okay, we can do that. So I'll send you an email for the list. Then I'll contact.
And I will email the neighbors that sent me letters, and see if you are interested and open to being, your contact being shared with this architect.
We close this portion
designers?
Oh, yeah.
or-
I'm an architect. I'm the one you wanted to contact information for the diagrams.
So just to be clear, we're gonna try and adhere to about
3 minutes.
3 minutes
Sure.
per comment, just so, because we have another topic to cover today.
Sure, I'll go pretty fast. I'm not directly affected by this project. I'm a couple of doors down. I'm an architect. I am affected by a project that occurred before Comac existed, so I have a big house in front of my view at this point, so I'm very aware how bulk and mass really affect our neighborhood. I wanted to show some diagrams. I think they're probably more straightforward than all of the writing. I've just identified kind of, the height is the same, but it basically comes up 4 feet on all sides, which is very large relative to the 7 or 8 feet they have to the adjacent neighbors. There's just no real, you can't plant anymore, there's nothing, it's a big wall of a big mass along that side.
So we
I
have the meeting mighty, sorry, I'm gonna share a presentation.
Yeah, so I'm not seeing your,
It's asking me for
Isn't
it.
it right up there on the whiteboard?
Huh?
Is it on the whiteboard?
Is that it?
sorry,
You put the meeting ID on the whiteboard?
834
834?
5907 8230.
yes.
The
Now
password.
it's already shared. Oh, the passcode too.
Or-
Or Zoom, yeah.
807.
There you go. And
All
then-
right, we're almost there.
Okay,
Okay,
and
You
then,
have to turn off your speakers too.
and I will be promoting you to panelists in order for you
Okay.
to share. Are you able
So
to
who are the attendees again?
Could you send that again?
We can just put it in the lab.
promote to
Yeah,
panelists?
There you go.
There you go.
Joyce panels, there we go.
Okay,
Okay.
and now you should be able to share.
All right, keep moving on.
okay, this is just showing, the red is basically highlighting the new proposed mass over the existing. This building is already the tallest on the street. It eaves roughly aligned with the neighboring eaves, and now basically the entire building will be 4 feet taller. So if you just scroll through these, you just see the elevations as you come along, and obviously the mass is coming much further back. So the existing pitch is actually pretty steep because you obviously have a pretty long length that you're getting to that. So coming up that 4 feet and then coming into the backyard, it's a pretty big bulk in this neighborhood. If you continue on, this is the back elevation, and then which is obstructing views, because not only are you raising it, you're then bringing it back closer to that neighbor, so it's obstructing even more of the view. And then the other side similarly. If you go to the next slide, I am not trying to be the architect for this whatsoever. I feel like that's just really not the place, but I know that there is a desire to have taller ceilings on these floors, which is why they seem to be raising the height. And so this was just like, there are just ways to do that where you can dig in, match the existing garage height. You can lower your eaves to the existing eave height. There are just things that you can look at to get what you want in terms of space, but not necessarily do it at the expense of adding so much mass. There are some things that I feel like, and if you just scroll the next one, this is just showing the neighbor, this along with its neighbors. Right now, the building aligns with the adjacent neighbors, and this is going to take up more than half of this backyard. I didn't outline in red the new addition piece of things, but if you were to look at this, it's going to go particularly far back in comparison to its two neighbors. So there are some things associated with this that I think the planning department really did not do a very good job. I'm kind of shocked, honestly. I work in a lot of different jurisdictions, and they're very picky when you review the drawings about what is what. They're like, oh, this is a crawl space. Well, if you look at this, this is a retaining wall that runs all the way across the building. There's no reason why this is definitely going to be over 7 feet tall. If you want to make this a crawl space, and it's actually going to be a crawl space forever, then this is the concrete wall, because then the earth would come through. This is just like a space that's begging to be waited to be filled in with program, which is going to take it over the allotted FAR floor area. If you go to the next plan, the next to school. Thank you. Because this is what was shown, is just that, you know, it's a wall up here, a concrete wall here, but really that wall is running all the way across, and so there's really no reason why that is not going to be filled in, and it does not meet the definition of a crawl space. So if you go to the next slide, please. There are lots of people who are going to talk to different other elements, and just to be short, I would just like to say this is not a remodel is if you do more than 50% of the exterior walls, and you cannot raise those walls. Those walls have to basically be the same plate height that they have now. And when I look at the building, first of all, it's decrepit. It's been sitting around for over 4 years in its state. I don't imagine that any of those walls are going to be able to be retained. And if you were to be able to do a diagram and identify that that more than 50% of the exterior walls are remaining in their same height, and a structural engineer validates that they are structurally sound, then it's a remodel. But otherwise, it's a new building, and it has to conform to everything related to a new building. And I guess what I'm saying is, if the planning department, I don't know how I could relay this to the planning department, because this is not your jurisdiction, but it feels like that is something that needs to be caught at some point in this process before it gets completed.
Thank you.
See, I've already got my computer, so let me see what I can say. All right, I promise I'll keep it brief. This is an update from the 2024 version for those who saw the earlier version. So this is the 2026 version, so 4 years later. So I think there are a couple, 3 things like I would like to comment on. One is the handling by the county, how planning has been dealt with, and then code enforcement. As you can see, this is a picture, it's a little blocked off there in the corner, but you can see at the current property, all of the boarding has been removed from the house for the last 2.5 years, which exposes all the neighbors to hazards, et cetera, et cetera. There's trash piled in the backyard. The weeds are overgrown, and that lovely little animal is the fox that lives there, that poops in the neighbor's yard and makes her pissed off. But it has 2 beautiful pups this year, it had 2 beautiful pups last year. There's also a family of deers and several other animals that live in the house because the house is actually open. The doors are open. So interesting. I'd also like to speak a little bit about the applicant and developer, the interchanges we've had so far, again, the property condition, and where I think they're coming in conflict with the Kensington ordinance. And then just a quick few conditions we got. So maybe I'll stop there. I'll do it quickly as I can. So from a planning perspective, it sounds like the planning department hasn't done a very good job of communicating with the applicant because they seem completely unfamiliar with the process in planning in Kensington. But the project, on both times, or this is the 3rd time, has been listed as a remodel, not a new build. This is a complete rebuild. You can't add 2 feet to 8-foot walls and make it a 10-foot wall. You have to restructure everything. There is nothing that will be left. There will not be 50%. I don't know why the county doesn't want to do that, but that's a different process, and we should see plans that represent what the project is, not what they think it should be. The original notice that was sent from KMAC was not sent to KMAC. So this was noticed originally. It actually just went out to the neighbors in error. So it was interesting. I was on vacation. My neighbor caught it and sent it to me and said, hey, you know, they're developing the house. It had both a variance and it had an FAR infraction. So it should have gone to KMAC originally. It didn't. So the county just missed that. In that same first application, the county miscounted the rooms. It was listed on the application as 4.3. It was actually 4.4 if you count it. Which again, these are just little misses, but over and over again, this is just, you know, the county not paying attention arguably to Kensington, and or, you know, looking at the ordinance. The second plans were mislabeled. The first plans were mislabeled. On the first plan, it shows an existing roof deck, which doesn't exist. So the county's just permitting kind of little errors all over the application. Those things shouldn't be there. Something that doesn't exist, the county should recognize. We pointed that out in I believe, the first meeting. Those same errors came back. They've also missed the 10-foot retaining wall on what they're calling a non-condition space, which is actually the original, you asked if it had changed. The original plans showed that 400 square feet that's now quote unquote unconditioned was the bonus room, playroom. So it's still, they close the door. So those are just things that I shouldn't catch as the average person. Those are things county planning should do. And again, they didn't enforce the story poles. We did ask for legal story poles at all four corners of the house. They put the story poles in the middle of the house, which doesn't represent from a view perspective or from the north and south neighbors what the impact is. They also are, by the county's option, they're 0.27 feet shorter than they should be. So they're sitting on the roof, they should actually be above theirs. They're actually not even accurate, to be honest. And I did share that with the county. Again, feedback from Graham was, well, it's close. But, you know, horseshoes and hand grenades. It's my house, I'd like to see that here. Code enforcement has done little to mitigate the hazards, as you see here. This is a house built in the 1920s. It probably has asbestos, it has fire damage. It's been left open for 2.5 years. We've complained several times. The last complaint to the code development this week, we were told, oh, it's going to KMAC, it's getting approved anyway, so we're not going to bother to go out there. We'd love to see them do their job. Again, boards, trash, animals, overgrowth have persisted. The trees have grown up to block our views, so just nothing is being maintained. The property's been absolutely not maintained for now through going on 3 years.
More than that. It's
Yeah,
been 6 years.
they owned it for 3.
Oh, they owned
Yep.
it.
So for 3 years they've owned it. The only thing they did actually was remove the boards that were put on after the fire and leave the house open.
Can I
Speaking.
Sorry, I'm getting comments that they're not able to hear the speaker. So maybe if we're speaking, we can come up
Sure.
closer just to make sure that
Yeah.
people on Zoom can hear. So maybe if we can
Do my
also,
best.
if you're speaking, you can come
my best.
closer around here.
Sure. I promise I'll hurry. We're gonna just go on. From an applicant and the developer, to be clear, the owners of this property own Diamond Bay Construction, so it is a developer. It's not necessarily a private party. It is owned by a corporation. The applicant had, like I said, they haven't done any community outreach. They haven't maintained the property. It's a derelict property presenting hazards to neighborhood. The applicant has not reached out to the neighbors at all. I did reach out to the county several times to grant for the designer architect to come to my house. He did not. I offered the owners to do it. I copied them on emails that I sent to KMAC and John and the rest of you. We haven't heard of it. Let's see, applicant neighbors, they've not listened to or responded to. There is a recording of the original Zoom. Many of the letters that I sent that had comments and feedback from the neighbors actually included the owners. I made sure they were copying all those. So they have been receiving all this dialogue all along. It's not a mystery, you should have gotten it. But they didn't do it. What's interesting is they haven't responded at all. The density of rooms, this is originally a 3.2. The last proposal was for a 4.4. Has it changed? It's now a 5.6. So yes, it's changed dramatically from what it was before. So it is a very different project. It's not just a roof change. Again, we asked them to scale it back and bring it down, and they scaled it up and brought it back. So again, I just don't think they're really listening to the comments. And again, it's disingenuous to say they weren't getting them because we've been sending them to them. All right, moving on to the ordinance. The challenge of the ordinance is the applicant and the designer are seeking 9 and 10 foot ceilings in an area with protected use. Standard is 8 feet. So what you all have is 8 foot ceilings. Common have 9 and 10 foot ceilings in communities like Alamo, Danville, places where people have large yards and space between them, but not where they look at views today. Just not common. So they're asking for something that's non-standard, which is creating that bulk in height and creates the challenge. The increased bulk is now on the upper floor since they removed the lower piece. It's 94% of this project is on the upper floor, which is kind of interesting, all back in the backyard. Now leaving roughly 20 some feet setback, right, something like that. They've not tried at all to align with the ordinance, or it hasn't been shared. I can't believe it. I've asked Brent that, I've asked the county that several times, have you shared it? Actually, in several of my emails, I sent them the link for it. So I don't know how they can understand or see the things that we see here. Things for KMAC to consider, obviously, this is why KMAC exists. The reason 22 years ago we created KMAC in the overlay ordinance was because outside developers were coming to our community, buying small houses and blowing them. So that's why we did this. So if we don't stand around here, we use ground everywhere. All 6 adjacent neighbors oppose the project for a variety of different reasons, but everyone is in some way or another offended by something that crosses the ordinance. The raising of the pyramid roof, as you saw in some of those diagrams, will definitely impact the bulk, which creates height, privacy, and some other issues for all the surrounding neighbors. And lastly, these are $1 million homes, so the impact is significant. It's hundreds of thousands of dollars in damage that's done to property owners if this happens. Lastly, my ask would be KMAC recommend denial, and I promise I'll go super fast. You saw these. This is what it looks like. I'll send this all to you. This is what it does to my view. The ordinance reads that it protects views of the bay and natural and valuable things. That's the Golden Gate Bridge. So you can see what the roof does. Also, even if the roof doesn't go up, you can see as you build it out, that's why their story poles are inaccurate, the projection goes out. So it's not just at this height, it's actually out here that you see the obstruction. So the story poles don't represent actually what's happening. This is not a little view in the corner of my yard. This is the view from the main room in our house. As you can see, if you look through it, that's the view that I see, which is currently unobstructed at that line there. This is what it looks like on a wonderful day. Kind of here is the peak of the roof there that you can see in the picture, but that's what they're looking to obstruct. Lastly, 34% increase in floor area, 46 if you count the 383 square feet that they're saying is unconditioned. 94% of that is on the upper floor in the backyard. When we asked them in the last meeting to dig down and put it below ground, they didn't, they actually took it above ground. 66% increase in bedrooms, 200% increase in bathrooms, 400 square feet that's unidentified, which then pushes them back over the FAR. The plans are incomplete, all on a 5,000 square foot lot. It's a big miss. You know all these ones. Creates height issues with the high ceilings, offends all 4 neighbors by putting a 4-foot wall on all 4 sides that goes up. It creates privacy concerns for the 2 adjacent neighbors at 213 and 217, view impacts for 216, 218, 222, and 220, and it's opposed by all 6 neighbors. Thank you.
Is there anybody else?
Well, I will, I'll go,
You're going really fast.
I'll go so fast.
Chris went a little over 3 minutes.
I am at 217 Yale, so I'm on the south side. So when I sit and eat breakfast and look out the window north, what I see now is my roses and blue sky. After this, there'll be no blue sky, there'll just be a wall. In my backyard, there's a fence. The house will come above the fence, and windows looking into my yard. So it's definitely a major privacy thing, and a view thing, not of the bay, but of the sky. So I'm not happy about the project. I oppose it. This one. 217.
Anyone else?
Would you like to speak? You think we covered it?
That's what you
We covered it, okay. We do have one online though that I think you should, it's the neighbor at 215.
Is it
or sorry,
Anne
213.
Conley?
Yes, they
Okay.
wanted to speak as well.
I have given her the ability to speak. Hello, Anne.
Hi, thank you so much. This is actually Natalie. Anna's sitting here next to me. I don't have a lot to add to all of that because basically it hit on all of our issues of bulk, privacy, views. But I just wanted to really point out the roof deck on the garage. It's a great concern of ours because if there is a deck on top of that garage, which is, by the way, not an existing roof deck, it's just a flat roof. It would look directly into our living room and our dining room and basically our whole house because it's open. And, you know, that is a pretty huge invasion of our privacy because we basically would have to have the curtains closed the entire time. So people, when they're out there, can't see into our house, which obviously is not ideal. And I want to like to thank everyone else, all the other neighbors, for having basically touched upon all of our issues as well, with the bulk and the height and the windows looking into our backyard and our back deck and our bedrooms in the back. So thank you so much.
I'm Hiroshi Nishimura, 216 Stanford. I live with me.
Right.
2 extras. this new plan will remove our view of Bay Bridge. Previously, we had 3 bridge views. And currently, as trees are very big, so very difficult to identify. But checking the old photo, I think it's a reduction of 3 bridge view to 2. I think it's something significant.
Thank you.
So we'll close public comments and
Any motion to allow me to continue?
so you're gonna request a continuance?
Yeah, we,
Okay.
Alright, make a motion to allow continuance for next time.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Alright,
All right, motion carries.
Thank
you.
you.
thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Okay, this next agenda item is CDP C2514 for Kensington Tree View Claim.
So,
Just a
quick minute.
minute.
Oh.
Do you have this one?
Is there a respondent here too?
I think they are.
They're not. Their car was here earlier. So full transparency, when we last met, we've had a lot of guidance in terms of how to interpret the ordinance, and so now we're much clearer in terms of what we're empowered to do. But thank you for being here to help us make sure we don't step in the wrong direction.
And actually, the AMAC member had to recuse myself because the property adjoining the project is mine. So now I'm joining you.
Real quick, so yes, I am Everett, I'm with the county, and I am here to assist the KMAC in interpreting the ordinance, also any procedural questions. However, I'm not here to give recommendations or provide any bias, so I can't, give that kind of help, but, if there are any interpretation questions of what the KMAC can recommend, or how the ordinance is applied, I'll be here to answer that, so feel free to look back and ask for help if you need. Okay, thank you.
So, I think I got kicked out of that meeting, or?
Yeah, so we have a new recommended procedural that we will be following if the advisory board is accepting of this new procedures.
Okay.
And so today, we will be having a fact-finding and advisory decision by a Tree Arbitration Board 8162.608. The written decision will include the Tree Arbitration Board's factual findings with respect to the standard listed in Article 816.2.4, recommended restorative actions, and a recommended allocation of all costs. If litigation is required to enforce the decision of the Tree Arbitration Board, there is a rebuttable presumption in favor of the Tree Arbitration Board's decision. The party bringing any private civil action under this chapter must promptly notify the Department of Conservation and Development in writing of the action. And so the following, as you can follow.
Okay. So the claimants will have 10 minutes for presentations, and then the respondents will also have 10 minutes.
Yeah, I think so.
Right now. Do you guys have something you want to present?
Yeah, we do.
Okay, yes. Now that we are in this section of our process, I will promote you to panelist. Kurt, and now you should be able to share your presentation.
Okay, great. So I know we met a couple months ago, and I think the main takeaway there was coming back with some further documentation of views at the time
we acquired our properties and compared with views now. And so there are two of us involved there. Hazel Hong, who is our neighbor, she's got the property just to the north, and then Kurt and Marcy, we live just south of Hazel's, adjacent to our property. So we'll start out with Hazel's situation.
Okay, so I moved in 1985 with a panoramic view, and you can see the Golden Gate Bridge, and this is the original picture. Please.
There it goes.
Okay, so then this is the current picture. When one of the tree owners, Leslie Jacoby, moved in 2011, she told everybody that she had a vision of the Santa Barbara Ranch for her backyard, and she started planting big live oak trees, even though her backyard plantable space is 1,100 to 1,300 square feet. And totally disregarding neighbors' views and the health of the trees. And over the years, she has claimed that she's been trimming the trees, but she had never, ever reduced the height of those trees. And she has planted about 5 big trees in that small space. So that's what I have to say. Thank you.
So this is another view, but maybe just as a helpful point of reference, you can see this, the house with the peak roof that you see, that's the property just to the north of the tree owners. So really unobstructed, but then you can see that house in this next slide, it's gray, just on the right of that middle picture, but you can see trees that are growing substantially higher than that. Okay, and then, so then our situation, so we purchased our property in 2006. We don't have a photo from our property in 2006. However, we do have this photo that Hazel had looking out from her property in 2006. And you can see that the brown house with the peaked roof is still there. Again, that's the one to the north, so the tree owners are located just to the left of that. But there's no vegetation in the backyard that really goes above the bottom of that roof. And then if you compare that now, this is looking from our house, but probably the left picture is the most helpful. But you can see those two coast live oaks. They're completely obscuring the house with the peaked roof, but also a good portion of our view of the bay and Mount Tam. And then if you kind of turn the view a little bit to the left, there's also this holly oak that's blocking part of our view of the bay. So those are the 3 trees that we addressed in the complaint. However, since doing that, we've noticed that they've planted a couple of other trees that grow to be very large. So this California sycamore in the backyard is a more recent planting, but it seems to be growing quickly. And kind of brings us back to a part of this ordinance, which the intent was to discourage planting trees that are going to diminish desirable views. But it hasn't been the practice here. These are photos from the Zillow listing when the tree owners acquired their property. Somehow they since got Zillow to pull all these pictures off, but we have done screenshots of these at that point. But there are no large trees that are going to be obstructing views in their backyard. Now they've got these 2 California sycamores. The right-hand picture is the one in the backyard. The left-hand picture is another California sycamore that they planted between the sidewalk and the street, which I'm not sure they're supposed to even do that. But again, comparing 2011, there's no California sycamore over there. Also, you can see that the neighbor's house, that holly oak is relatively small, well below the chimney there, and a fairly modest tree. But you can see on the left side, that's grown substantially, and is up higher than that chimney. And so, to summarize what they've got going on this property, it's a very small lot. It's 3,900 square feet. It's probably got 1,100 to 1,300 square feet of plantable space. That they've got at least 5 trees that are huge trees that grow to 70 to 80 feet tall with very wide canopies and completely at this point significantly affecting our view.
But if that's all left to continue to grow, especially with that California sycamore, it'll just completely block any view we have of the bay. And Marcia, maybe you wanted to say a few things?
Yeah. I'd like to address the clause in the view ordinance that states that the intent of the ordinance is to discourage the planting of trees that unduly diminish desirable views. Because based on our firsthand experience and observations over the 14-year span, we believe that Leslie Jacoby is in clear violation of this clause. Her original plan to manifest her Santa Barbara vision was addressed immediately after her visit to our residence to introduce herself and establish a friendly relationship that ensured we would all work together and there would be nothing to be worried about. But small plastic nursery pots containing live oaks were spotted in an over-the-fence conversation that I had with her. Despite our objections and eventual formal complaint, we were advised to readdress the issue when the trees grew to a size that impacted our view and natural light. Her choice of tree plantings would in time block our bay view looking out toward the city, which is the two that Kurt showed you there, the bay laurel, or the holly oak, and then the newly planted sycamore. So let's see, her choice of tree would block the view out toward the city and our northwest looking toward Mount Tem by completely joining the canopies to close in any view of ocean at all. The focus of my point here is her intent. It appears to us that despite the dispute for over a decade, she devised a Plan B and Plan C. Plan B is the planting of the two California sycamores in direct line of our city view. One to replace the view blocked by her current holly oak should she be required to remove it. And another California sycamore behind the holly oak on the street planting strip, which requires a permit, by the way, that she did not obtain, and probably wouldn't have been granted because the tree is planted directly under the power lines. This in time will completely obliterate our view of the ocean entirely on the ground floor, and would also threaten our stellar upstairs view of all of the bay bridges. This took some planning. When the arborist was at our house, he observed through binoculars what he believed to be a box myrtle, also called a bayberry tree. Kurt did not mention this. An evergreen planted in her backyard next to the California sycamore. This is Plan C. He didn't specify which variety, but all of the varieties grow to heights starting at 20 to 26 feet high. We can only presume that deliberate planning went into these choices, which is shocking given the ongoing dispute which any normal person would consider tenuous. It's also a mystery to us that consideration for her own foundation and underground pipes wouldn't be reason enough to make sensible choices. But it appears that this was not her motivation. Based on what we and other neighbors have experienced, it really feels to us that she intends to agitate and create disharmony with all of her neighbors through her aggressive determination to engage us and other neighbors in legal battles. She has not intended to choose trees that would protect our views and natural light. This is in clear violation of the clause in the ordinance aforementioned.
Yeah, they've shown no willingness to cooperate in any way, even through this process. I think at the first meeting, they basically told you, we don't care what you say, we're going to make them take us to court over this. And even when we had the arborists come out to look at the trees and assess those, they wouldn't allow the arborists on their property. And they just frequently engage in activities that, they've cultivated hostile relationships with every single neighbor that they have. Another one from this year, a couple. But they've just been impossible to work with.
Everyone surrounding your property is here.
And they're always sending legal threat letters, like really frivolous, like they told us to keep our kiwi branch, little one shoot off of their double fence. They planted another fence. We paid for our shared fence between their lot and our lot, and they built another fence so she could do what she wanted. And our kiwi little tendril touched her fence, and she sent us a letter from a lawyer.
So I know pruning could be an option, you know, that could be considered, but we asked the arborist about that with these trees. And he said it would take 5 to 9 years to complete a pruning program to restore views, which I don't think is fair to expect us to take that amount of time. Plus, they've just shown us time and again that they won't follow through or execute on these things. Throughout the years, they've said, oh yeah, we're going to prune these trees, we're going to preserve your views, but as Hazel said, they have done some pruning, but they've never done it in a way where it's meant to preserve our views. So that could have been done years ago, but at this point, it's too late for pruning to be an option.
And pruning also should be noted, if they prune the height, that improves Hazel's view. If they improve, if she only, but if it spreads out, it ruins our view. So no matter how you prune, one of the two of us are gonna lose our view.
I'd like to make a comment as the
Well,
attorney.
the time's up for this
That,
part of the.
that was the 10 minutes.
Yeah.
There is a rebuttal after we give the tree owners 10 minutes,
They're not here.
but they're not here.
Can I take up some?
So then we do have public comments, which would be 3 minutes if we all agree on 3 minutes.
For 2 minutes.
I just wanted to make 2 points. One is that the tree claimants, the view claimants are not claiming that anything can be decided with respect to the sequoias that have just been planted. Those were only brought to the attention of the board because it was a recent discovery, even since the last meeting. And it was to show their bad faith. Giant trees added to these other big trees. That's one thing. So we're only asking about 3 trees, the 2 live oaks and the holly oak. And Kurt just mentioned that the arborist said that his opinion is that the holly oak should come out, but the 2 others can be trimmed. I think that's what it was, right? I think that's what he
Well, I
said.
thought he said it would take 5 to 9 years of
Right,
pruning to
and it
reduce those to a level where it wouldn't obstruct our view. But
Exactly,
that's
so
not
that
feasible.
length of time is important to know. And we did include in the packet from last time, the case that I cited that had to do with the judge commenting that if the tree owners had attended to the view claimants' requests that they do pruning to keep this Monterey pine from getting in their view, then that could have been done a long time ago to keep the view. So there's an intent not only in the planting of the trees, knowing that they were objected to, but in the refusal to do pruning that would have kept these beautiful oaks that they like so much at a height that wouldn't obstruct the views. So there's a lot of bad faith here that I think needs to be noted. Thank you.
And remember, those little oaks were this big when they went in. They were just little plastic black pots. And so there was a lot of opportunity at that point to A, not put them in, and B, to prune them.
Good.
Okay.
Is there any more?
I would like to speak. I'm a neighbor just to the south of the Leslies. And I'm here because I'm hoping not to have to come back here about that tree that was just planted this year. I think I talked with you, Everett, on the phone a while back about this thing. And theoretically, she has a right to do this. I was told by an architect that it was a plane tree and could go 50 to 100 feet tall. As we speak right now, it's just starting to reach the level of my deck where I'm looking off. I have a complete unobstructed view, which is going to be obstructed by this tree that was planted in the last year. I don't even think it's a year old. This is the second or third time she's trying to plant something. This one looks like it's taking. I'm here because this is something that she does all the time, and it's going to affect me, and I need to come back to deal with that tree. That's all I need to say.
I think we also have someone on Zoom, Gail, who would like to speak.
Oh, yes. Hi. I'm sorry again to ask, but really I cannot hear the discussion unless people are really closer to the mic and facing it. None of the people in the audience can be heard on the Zoom. So if you could try to do that, and also the staff person from DCD, if you could come, if you do speak, come close, really close to the mic. Thank you.
We need to get invest in a microphone.
Yeah, I'll get a new mic. I'll make note of that. Thank you, Gail, for sharing that.
So, my understanding is that we consider all these things that have been planted, not just the ones that have reached a certain height, correct? Because it's also like the potential for future growth that we can consider as well, right?
So that's a good question. So what you're asking is, you're saying potentially the trees that have been planted that are not in this current view claim?
Correct.
Correct. All
If
trees
they have,
that we now
because
know
they
grow.
will at some point, they will grow to that to become a view plant.
Yes. Yeah. So again, the view claim submitted can encompass, I should have reminded you guys, this document that we created.
Yeah.
This is a wonderful guideline to review when listening to the claims, because they have kind of like a helpful checklist of did they meet the criteria or not.
Yeah, and I've been referencing
Perfect.
that. That's the one thing I wasn't sure about that I didn't see in here is basically in the claim, like they're noting trees that already have an issue and ones that will have an issue.
And right, and so that's at the discretion of the board.
Okay, so I was just making sure we had discretion.
So again, you can decide what the view claim is based off of the evidence that's presented, and then at the discretion of your guys' decision, you can say, you can cut one tree but keep tree two, or come back in a year and trim tree two because we know it's going to grow taller. Right. But again, that is part of the view claim, right? So in reviewing the project, you need to identify what the view claim is, and if they brought enough evidence to prove that they have a view claim, right? What is it blocking? Are the landmarks being overburdened? Yeah. Did they provide photo evidence showing that they had the property at the time they claimed? Right. Right?
Yep. Cool. Thank you.
The other question is, can we just make a blanket statement that all trees need to be kept at 25 feet high on property? If we know the property is full of trees, it will consistently be growing, because it'd be impossible to build a plan that says 2 years from now cut that tree, 4 years from now cut that tree, because you've got, it sounds like trees 1 through 8. So is there just a way to say that the trees can go no higher than the height of the building itself or something? Is that a blanket statement we can make? If we can make a claim to the whole property, can we make a consistent claim to the height of trees on the property?
So you would have to first identify which trees.
You couldn't say all trees.
No.
Future trees.
No. Yeah.
Do you understand?
I think it comes down to the view claim. What trees are blocking the view, right? And so, for example, if you have a house but there's trees in the front that may not grow that tall and are blocking, it would be unfair to put that burden on the property owner to trim those trees. So again, you need to, and that's why the arborist report is so important here. Is in that report they provide evidence based off of what they've seen in terms of what trees may be impacting. So again, we would advise you to not do a blanket statement, because that would
So now it's our turn to just discuss one further. So it seems that they presented evidence that they have use. I don't think that there is any doubt about that.
Could you speak up, please?
I said, it seems to me that you demonstrated that you have views that are no longer there. So you have a claim, is basically what we're saying.
Where do we check that?
So now there needs to be a decision in terms of how we direct how that claim needs to be addressed by the homeowner, tree owner.
What's the restorative action and where's the burden, the financial burden?
Yep.
For the two things.
Yep. I do have one question for this group, because I'm not entirely clear. My understanding is that the area of sidewalks and planting beyond the sidewalk between the road and the sidewalk is not owned by the homeowner, it's owned by the municipality, right?
I don't know in Kensington, but that's true in Elstree.
That's what I was wondering.
But I don't know in Kensington, I don't believe the county takes any responsibility, because they don't do your sidewalk.
Well, since we're unincorporated, I understand, but I don't think we own them. Like, if there's a sidewalk.
There's probably a right of way, is what I
Yeah,
would say.
it's like an easement kind of
Yes,
thing.
correct.
So, the ability to plant in those spaces is kind of like, it's not established that you have a right to plant in those patches.
Well, a good question maybe for the county, can you get confirmation about the strip in front of the property?
So from my understanding, your question is, does a property owner have a right to plant trees on a portion that may not be their property?
The section between the sidewalk and the street.
Without seeing the parcel map and seeing who owns what, I can't identify it.
I actually have an answer because I called the city on this. They said that the planting strip, like you said, the owner can plant something, but if it's gonna be tall, they have to get a permit. And I asked, it's not their property, but they can maintain it. So most people put flowers and things. I asked, did they obtain a permit to put in that California sycamore, and they looked it up and said, no, they did not.
And so from a KMAC perspective, beyond just the tree ordinance, but also just like the fact that we look at things that are gonna impact our infrastructure, the sycamore is gonna destroy that sidewalk there too. So, my recommendation to this group is that we say that needs to be removed. That can't stay there.
Yeah, but I guess the question is, did the arborist provide a clear map so we can do, because that sounds like something we're gonna have to ask for in the future if they didn't. Tree 1, tree 2, tree 3, 4, 12.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to speak to each of the 8 offending trees or whatever it may be.
Right.
But we have to give a specific remedy for each tree. So do we have that? I don't know.
Yes,
So I understand.
well, for the two California live oak or the coast live oaks and the holly oak, yes, that's in the arborist report. The California sycamores we noticed later after we had filed all those claims, so those are not on his.
So we need to name each tree, I guess is the way we say it.
Well, we're naming that tree now since we have a picture
So
of that
now we
tree.
call it tree number 4.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
All right.
So, may I ask a question? So you're saying that tree that was planted on the sidewalk needs to be removed?
Well,
We don't know.
I'm
Gotta get
discussing
back.
that. I'm recommending to my colleagues here and deciding whether
Yeah,
that's.
yeah. Okay, there. But because we can recommend one of 4 outcomes for each of the 4 trees.
Yes.
Right, and that's the most extreme one, but that's one that I'd say
Right.
go directly in the option.
I would agree because it hasn't, I'd be okay with tree 4
Yeah.
being option 4.
And so I just want to be clear, the tree in front is not part of the view claim. So the board has no authority over it.
Okay, so we can't change.
Oh, we can't. So
You
that
can't.
was my first
It's
question.
going to be.
It's going to be. So basically,
I
it's
thought you said that was at their
Oh,
discretion.
let him speak.
Yeah, so the view claim, again, you have to establish which trees are blocking a view, right? Not could be in 20 years or 15 years. If they're actively blocking or if they're right out to the point where they are, then that is the tree that needs to have the restorative action. This tree in front, that you're mentioning, it wasn't ever included in the arborist report, it wasn't ever included in the plans, it wasn't ever included in the view claim, so you can't comment on that tree at this point.
okay. Well, then, Joanne, I think we should refer this to the county and say that they need to look at that then.
And again, removal of a tree that is within a public right of way would have to go to the Public Works Department.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
So that may be your first place to start.
Public Works?
Public Works, believe it or not.
Okay, I will.
It's a non-permanent tree on in their space.
Yeah.
Yeah, check with them.
May I also make a comment about the KMAC's job here is to determine whether there's been a view obstructed by trees. And you said that's been established, basically, that's not a question. But also to make findings about what can be done to
That's what we're talking
That's
about.
what we're talking about.
We're working on
I
that.
understand, I just wanted to point out.
We're getting there.
It's like, you can't keep keeping back and forth, or else we're never gonna get through
Okay,
this.
it's
So-
not a back and forth, I really think it's
A lot of back
important.
and forth.
It is because
Well,
we're
We're-
closed.
we're-
Just let me finish.
We are closed for
Public
public
comment.
right now.
So let us work
So
with the
you
county.
can't keep it
and
If
from
we
work on
go
this.
to court, because they said we have to get the trees done, okay? Then, if you haven't exactly laid out what it is that can or can't be done to the trees at this point, and just have, just leaving it open, that will be.
We're not leaving it open. We just need to
We're
make sure
trying to
it's-
get through it, but
Yeah.
we can't.
Yeah.
So please, don't interrupt. Then if there's something else you need to say when we're done.
We'll open back up to
Okay.
public comment.
Thank you, Mike.
We're new to this too, but if this were the building commission, you would not be allowed to speak. So,
Okay.
and then in the earlier meeting, so,
Good.
so you know.
Okay. So we need to,
So two live oaks and a holly oak that we're addressing here.
so tree 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
Which one is 1, which one's 2, and which one's 3?
We'll do the holly oak as 3, and then two live oaks as 1 and 2.
Can we place them, recognition? Tree number 1 is the,
So we
Tree number 1, the holly oak, is on the side of their house, on the south side of their house. The 2 coast live oaks are both in the backyard in the kind of northwest corner.
are they,
How would you describe the 2 live oaks?
need some way to discern
Is
tree
there like-
1?
Is one north of the other one, or?
We're making
One
the
is like, one
holly,
is on the fence line and one is more in the middle of the yard.
so we're making tree 1, the oak on the fence line?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Fence line. What's north, south, east, west?
north.
Fence line is north, and then the second one's gonna be middle of the backyard.
No,
I wouldn't
it's
say quite the
The
middle.
second one is right next to the back of their house.
Oh, okay.
My recommendation to the board is to make a note to refer to the arborist report that was submitted. Because the arborist clearly identifies where these 3 specific trees are. So in the findings, you could say, for example, holly oak, coast live oak 2, identified in the arborist report prepared by tree bug.
Thank you.
So here we have a holly oak and coast live oak 1. Or something.
Oh, coast live oak, right there.
Where's the coast live oak 2 in this? That's the remediation.
Are you looking at the most recent arborist report or the first
Yes,
one?
this is the one we
Okay.
received,
So the first one has all 3,
May 28th.
Oh,
and then the newest one identifies 2.
We have that one.
This one.
So this is the only one that was shared with us.
From the previous meeting, the packet that
Yeah, we just don't have that one right now.
yeah, okay.
We brought today's.
Gotcha.
The most
So
recent arborist report. that
Right,
was
so
shared.
I think there needs to be a distinction made. So the original one recommends pruning for the holly and the coast live oak 1, and then removal for the coast live oak 2. And then the newest edition goes into more detail of how long it would take to prune holly and coast live oak.
Yeah.
That's just the difference.
Okay,
There's
thank you.
no change to our support.
So
coast live oak and holly oak, just to be clear, is one that's pruning that takes 7 to 9 years to restore abuse.
yes,
So it's either wait 7 to 9 years, or you have to remove the whole thing.
correct.
I recommend removal for all 3
Yeah.
at the expense of the owner of the house.
Okay, second that.
I think these are planted in poor faith. I think they weren't managed. Throughout the years when numerous opportunities were called out.
I agree.
I don't think there's any way
All
of
in
keeping these
favor?
trees healthy either by doing that to them, so, yeah.
Yeah.
Too much burden on these folks too.
And the pruning will do it as well.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So you're creating another problem.
It'll become a yearly meeting for us.
So we have,
We'll get to know you.
do we make a motion? Do we
Well,
fill
we're
out a
probably seeing it in
checklist?
5 years.
Yes,
so
there
we
we go.
can
Motion.
more, so.
So you made a
Fine, we'll
motion?
see you next year, let's sycamore.
And-
Do we have a motion?
Yeah, I have a motion to remove it.
And you, for the record, make sure you say the reason why. So if you go through a checklist, you can say the benefits and burdens.
Yeah.
Because those are the standards, the findings that need to be put into the legal document.
Okay.
So that's our checklist.
Joanna needs to write down which ones you are articulating, as well as the restorative action, and then the who is going to be in charge of paying and maintaining this.
Let me give this a shot. How about that?
So just kind of go through each one and say which one.
Per the arborist report, where he recommended removal of coastal live oak 1, we agree that should be removed.
Correct.
Per the arborist recommendation for coastal live oak 2, we believe that's an undue burden on the neighbors to continue to have to enforce the maintenance of that trimming program, and recommend removal as well. For the arborist report on the holly oak, we find the same as the other live oak in saying that it's too much of a burden on the neighbors to enforce the compliance with the trimming program and should be removed as well.
Not that I would add to it, but should we add, I think it's unreasonable to take 7 to 9 years to restore.
It is,
So I think we should add.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yeah. Per the second
The second burden, it's not only gonna have to maintain it, but also to wait 7 to 9 years to restore a view that they had
prior to this point. Yes.
It should be.
Yes. So per the updated arborist report,
Correct.
that the program for trimming would take 7 to 9 years. It is also an undue burden on the neighbors to have their views restored.
Correct. Does that work?
Did you say what was the view character?
Visual screening was the issue, was that the?
The
no,
view
sorry.
character, they had, the residents identified that they had views that covered most of the Bay Area, including bridges,
bridges, natural
vegetation.
Natural vegetation.
Okay.
Okay.
And then the you said removal for all three.
Correct.
And then recommended implementation of restorative actions.
We recommend that the resident that planted all 3 trees is responsible for removing all 3 trees at their own cost.
But restorative, that they would, if they plant restorative trees, that they can grow no more than 25 feet in height.
They can no longer, they will not grow to a height that could potentially impact the other residents surrounding them.
Because they're just replanting.
Yeah.
So how do we say that?
I don't. You can't. Unfortunately, you can't say that.
You can't.
No.
Yeah, try it.
Yeah. It would come back as another view plane.
Okay. Yeah.
If they were to replan.
Yeah.
Where did you get the figure 25 feet?
I don't know. I'm just saying that seems what's the standard house? Isn't 2.5 stories? Is it 35?
All I'm saying is that if it's a view plane, if they, like, our recommendation is to plant vegetation that is
We
not
can
going
make
to
restorative.
impact.
I don't know why we can't make a restorative claim that says that they plant trees that don't.
So the ordinance, it restricts you to the 4 items, which is the trimming.
So we can't. So they can do whatever. So we're voting for number 4 then.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
And that the cost of doing the trimming and doing everything, even restoring the property, is borne by the owner of the property.
Yes.
Okay,
And
cool.
ongoing maintenance.
There's no ongoing maintenance is being removed, correct? Yeah.
How much weight does that clause in the ordinance carry that says that you should discourage the planting of trees that will block people's
It
view?
doesn't sound like much.
Yeah. It doesn't sound like that.
So
discouragement.
it's
What is the fine for that? What is the
right.
cost?
So for example, if someone plants an Italian cypress, those go really high.
Right.
That clause kind of says, okay, that tree is not really meant to be here. It's not indigenous. It's not doing anything. So that would have the weight there, for example. But if someone planted a coast live oak or redwood, something indigenous, something that would readily be around the area, that provides value. Then that clause doesn't apply.
But they would just pick another species that would be
But
the
there's
same
no
size.
recourse to it, I guess. So what's the point of saying?
So the recourse is the tree view claim coming back, and then your board would say, okay, well, this tree you planted, it's not indigenous, it sprouted too high, therefore, it could be a discouraged V, therefore we need to remove it.
Everett, if that's how the ordinance is drafted, I think that we need to recommend that they consider making a modification to it, because it seems like there's a chance that residents, like let's say these residents, we mandate the removal of trees. Let's say that they're successful at removing those trees, and then new trees are planted and their views are impacted yet again, and they have to make another claim. Their enjoyment of their view is constantly being impacted over and over again.
And they're having to bear the cost of filing an application. So there's a financial cost to the neighbor continuing to plant all trees. Not that it's going to happen over and over again, but the question is how do you resolve it?
Well, and again, that kind of comes to down the restorative action. Now you're putting the burden of cost on the property owner. So, if I was a property owner and I knew, oh my God, I'm going to get charged every single time I plant my tree, I would stop.
We have very wealthy people who live in Kensington who can be very vindictive, so they'll happily spend the money over and over again.
Yeah, and unfortunately, there's nothing that the county can do to prevent someone from planting a tree.
So, but what about these California sycamores? I know they weren't in our initial view claim, but could we file a new view claim notice in those two?
You can file, yes.
Saying those are planted, know, with disregard to that intent of the ordinance.
So what I would recommend is filing a new view claim based off of the view you have now or before, and then what it is now. Because unfortunately, you can't think about it going backwards. You can't say, oh, they planted it in spite of what's happening. But if you do have a valid view claim, then the restorative action will come to the board and they can recommend, removal or trimming or whatever.
I agree with what was said here, that should really be looked at the way that's written.
I
because
understand.
It's not right to just keep repeating the problem.
I understand that it is confusing, but the county does not want to enforce people's private rights to plant whatever tree they want.
Yeah, but you're not supposed to block your view, so.
Right, and that's why we're here. That's why we have this process to.
So I don't think I would say take the win we've got.
Yeah, for now,
And I think what we will ask for the county is to consider that, because again, it does create a revolving door of view claims.
This is a precedent on this specific property as well.
Yeah.
So when you come here next time, it's going to be.
I can assure you she'll just keep doing that. She's already, I've showed you plan A, B, and C.
Can I make one comment about what Kurt said? It says in what we lawyers call a statement of legislative intent. And that's this other changes that's published by the city. It's not part of the ordinance, it's the one that we quoted here. It says a new purpose of the ordinance is to discourage the planting and maintenance of trees that may result in excessive shade and unduly diminish desirable views. Nothing about indigenous or non-indigenous. There's no other factor. It's and not even saying that it has to be now. If we go to court, usually you can't make a claim.
I think we
based
see.
on.
I think we're seeing your point too, and we're making a similar one. What Everett's communicating to us is that the way the ordinance is drafted is it's supposed to discourage people. So basically, by having to bear the cost of removing trees and stuff like that, that should discourage people from doing it, right?
We don't want to take the next step.
They don't want to take the next step of saying you can't plant trees that are going to grow taller, then that's going to impact people's views. Okay.
That's
We agree
your
with you.
interpretation. You threw in the indigenous and non-indigenous, and I thought that's not what it says.
Yeah.
So I thought it
Thank
should
you.
be.
Yeah, we get it.
Right, as Kensington homeowners, we all agree with you. But we have to stick with the laws.
Yeah.
Right, the black and white.
Okay, so I think we have our finding, right?
We have a motion and then a second.
We have a second already, didn't we? Or do we have?
I say.
I say,
Okay, then take a vote.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0.
Thank you, Everett.
Okay, so
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, and what's going to happen next is on the procedural sheet. So Joanna's going to send me an email with kind of the findings and everything, and then either she or I will work on drafting an actual legal document. And then what's going to happen at the next KMAC meeting, the board will vote to ratify that. Basically, you'll get it and you'll look at it and say this makes sense, or no, we meant to say this, and then you would do the same thing, a motion to vote, and then once you vote, it'll be approved, and she'll send the legal document out to the property owners and the claimants and them. And then in terms of next steps, so that is kind of like the legal binding of litigation, right? So if they don't follow through, then that document is kind of like burden of proof from the county saying this is what we decided, and it's on them to kind of refute that.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Does it impact the property? I mean, ultimately, if they don't do anything and there's a binding, is there a lien, or is it just on the person or is it on the property?
Gotcha. Yeah, that's a good question. There's two separate applications. The fact-finding one does not do anything.
Yep.
But the binding arbitration, I believe that one is recorded on the property.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. But that requires both parties to agree to binding.
To agree, correct. Yeah.
So they've said they will do
That's
that.
correct.
So.
We'll end up in court and you'll have a document to use in court.
Yeah.
When is that Kensington board meeting?
We're done.
The next agenda. So
It's the last Wednesday of every month.
Oh, okay, so when you guys meet next month, then it's,
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, well, thank you all for.
Thank you very much.
Motion to adjourn? Second.
second.
Thank you for your patience.
Sure.